Chapter 2 goes over a variety of topics, including some historical perspective as well as different perspectives in how people study sexuality. How it's been viewed clinically, especially the topic of homosexuality, looking at Freud's view of it, as well as others. And also it goes over the various perspectives researchers take toward studying sexuality. Sociologists, for example, examine sexuality by conducting surveys and examining how society at large impacts sexual behavior, sexual trends as they change over time. The feminist perspective often focuses on women and their sexuality. Notice these two things often go hand in hand. Sociocultural influences on women's sexuality, what is considered sexy, social cultural influences on what behavior is appropriate for women. You will see feminists very often finding social causes and social influences on behavior, probably a little more so than biological. The book points out researchers often point more to social influences in describing women's sexuality and biological influences describing males. We can also take an evolutionary approach in examining traits that may exist in either genders and how they are expressed and why they are there in the first place. We may, for example, look at differences in jealousy. Lately there's been some really interesting research in evolutionary psych. It combines both the social influences and the biological influences. Sometimes it's been criticized for being a little too biological. Sometimes, often it's been criticized for being very post hoc. I myself, I lean toward a evolutionary perspective because it does combine a lot of the biological and social influences. One of the core things I keep saying I want you to get out of the class is a richer understanding that both things are at play. If you think about it, if some trait has existed for a long time and is cross-cultural, it may end up establishing itself in our genetic code. The environmental influences often dictate over time what traits are most adaptive. We see this in physical strength. Men were typically the hunters. They would go out, so they would have killing animals or unfortunately each other. They'd have to then be bigger and stronger, whereas women were more caretakers. And this helps explain why we see the physical differences in men and women in terms of strength, height, and some other attributes. We can also see this probably in personality characteristics like how jealousy is expressed, as well as some cognitive influences. The book points out differences in mental rotation tasks, object identification, and complex scene. One aspect of the chapter I find kind of funny is the fact that the authors early on guard against stereotypes and the negative aspects of stereotypes, and then in the chapter by looking at some fairly stereotypical behaviors among different ethnic groups. So it seems to be that certain stereotypes are appropriate for them and not others. I will not be producing videos for chapters 3 and 4. They contain information about basic physiology of men and women. This is very important information. However, I think the content in the book and through the website provides ample information. So focus on what is provided there.